Living alone in a world that constantly emphasizes the importance of companionship and connection can be an isolating experience, especially for a man who chooses to live without a girlfriend or partner. In our society, there's a tendency to equate personal fulfillment with being in a relationship, with the idea that happiness, success, and stability are all bound to the presence of another. The pressure to conform to this ideal is immense, yet there is something profoundly valuable in the choice of living alone, something that often goes unnoticed or misunderstood. It is not merely an absence, a void left behind by the lack of romantic involvement, but rather an active, intentional process of self-exploration, growth, and mastery. The notion of a man who chooses solitude is, in many ways, counter to the prevailing cultural norms. From the moment a young boy enters the world, society begins to shape his understanding of what it means to be a man, and this often includes the narrative of needing a woman by his side. In our media, the image of the man who has everything includes the partner, the relationship, the emotional support. Without these, the perception is that something is missing. But to reject this norm and choose to live alone is not an act of rebellion against society, but an embrace of the deeper, sometimes more difficult journey of understanding oneself without the distraction of romantic entanglements. When a man lives alone without a girlfriend, he is offered a rare and precious opportunity to deeply examine who he is and what he truly desires from life. This is not an easy path. The expectations of what it means to be a man often weigh heavily, and a man who stands apart from these societal expectations is vulnerable to the judgment of others. There is a kind of loneliness that comes with living alone, but it is a different kind of loneliness than the one many people imagine. This loneliness can be filled with purpose and clarity, with the opportunity for meaningful self-reflection and growth. In fact, it might be the very absence of a romantic relationship that allows him to truly understand what he wants and needs, independent of external validation. To be clear, choosing to live without a girlfriend does not mean rejecting love or companionship altogether. It is more about rejecting the need for romantic relationships to define one's identity or to provide a sense of validation. A man who lives alone is still capable of deep, meaningful friendships, familial connections, and interactions with the world around him. However, he does not rely on the presence of a romantic partner to feel complete. In this sense, living alone offers a unique opportunity for emotional and psychological independence, a state of being where one can cultivate their own emotional resilience and strength. There is also something fundamentally transformative in the solitude that comes with living alone. In a relationship, one often compromises, adapts, and sometimes suppresses parts of themselves to accommodate the needs and desires of the other person. While this can be a healthy part of any partnership, there is also something lost in the process. A man who is not in a romantic relationship is afforded the freedom to explore who he truly is, without the filter of someone else's expectations. He is able to pursue his own interests, take risks, and build a life that is truly his own. This freedom can be incredibly empowering. This kind of self-reliance is essential for a man who desires to be fully autonomous. In a world that is increasingly interconnected, the ability to stand on one's own, to not be dependent on another for validation or a sense of worth, is an invaluable skill. It enables a person to make decisions that are in alignment with their values, rather than those shaped by the expectations of others. There is an inherent strength in the ability to forge one's own path, to be the master of one's own destiny. Moreover, living alone offers the chance to develop a deep and authentic relationship with oneself. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, it is easy to become distracted by external influences, opinions of others, the demands of work, the pressures of social media, the constant bombardment of information. When one is alone, there is an opportunity to turn inward, to reflect on one's own thoughts, feelings, and desires. This self-awareness can be a profound tool for personal growth, as it allows for the exploration of one's own vulnerabilities, fears, and aspirations. By facing these aspects of oneself head-on, a man can begin to grow and evolve in ways that would be difficult in the context of a romantic relationship. In addition to the personal benefits of living alone, there is also the matter of living authentically. Our society often encourages people to fit into preordained roles, to live in ways that are deemed acceptable or admirable by others. For a man who chooses to live without a girlfriend, there is a rejection of these external pressures, and an embrace of the individuality that comes from choosing to walk a different path. This is not to say that relationships are not important, but rather that the choice to live alone is an act of authenticity. It is a recognition that one does not need to conform to societal expectations in order to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. In this way, living alone without a romantic partner becomes a kind of personal liberation. It allows for a profound level of introspection and personal growth and offers the space needed for the development of a strong sense of self. This can be a difficult journey, but it is one that leads to a more resilient, self-aware individual who is capable of creating meaningful relationships with others not out of necessity or dependence, but out of genuine connection and choice. Of course, there are challenges that come with living alone. The pressures of loneliness can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially during times of personal struggle. There may be moments when the lack of romantic companionship becomes particularly poignant, and the desire for connection becomes a source of longing. However, these moments of loneliness can also be an opportunity for growth. They can serve as reminders of the importance of emotional independence and self-reliance. In these moments, a man is forced to confront his own emotions and find ways to cope with them without relying on external validation. The idea of emotional independence is not about rejecting human connection or intimacy. It is about recognizing that one can be whole, complete, and fulfilled without relying on another person to fill a perceived void. It is about learning to find meaning and purpose within oneself, rather than looking to someone else to provide it. In this way, living alone can be seen as a form of self-empowerment, a declaration that one does not need to be in a relationship to be happy or successful. It is also worth considering the role that masculinity plays in the decision to live alone. In many cultures, men are often expected to be strong, self-sufficient, and emotionally detached. This can create a sense of pressure to conform to a certain ideal of masculinity, one that often includes being in a relationship or having a partner. A man who chooses to live alone may find himself questioning these traditional notions of masculinity, redefining what it means to be a man in his own terms. He may discover that true strength lies not in conforming to societal expectations, but in having the courage to embrace one's own uniqueness and individuality. Furthermore, living alone without a girlfriend provides a man with the opportunity to focus on his personal goals, aspirations, and ambitions. When one is not preoccupied with the needs and desires of a romantic partner, there is more space to focus on personal growth, career development, or creative pursuits. This focus on individual growth can be incredibly rewarding, as it allows a person to cultivate a sense of purpose that is not dependent on anyone else. The ability to dedicate oneself fully to a passion or project can be a deeply fulfilling experience, and it is often in these moments of personal dedication that one discovers a sense of true meaning and satisfaction. There is also the issue of personal responsibility. When a man chooses to live alone, he must take full responsibility for his own life. This means managing his own time, finances, health, and well-being. There is no one else to rely on, no one else to share the burdens of daily life with. This can be both challenging and empowering. It forces a person to confront the reality of their circumstances and take ownership of their decisions. It is through this responsibility that a man can truly grow and develop the qualities of discipline, perseverance, and self-motivation that are essential for success in life. In many ways, living alone is a process of reclaiming one's life, of asserting control over one's own destiny. It is a path that requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to face the challenges that come with solitude. But it is also a path that leads to greater emotional and psychological strength, greater independence, and a deeper understanding of oneself. For the man who lives alone without a girlfriend, life is not about what he is missing, but about what he is gaining. It is about the opportunity to create a life that is entirely his own, free from the expectations of others. It is about finding fulfillment not in the presence of a romantic partner, but in the pursuit of personal growth, self-discovery, and meaningful connections with others. It is about embracing the challenges and rewards of living authentically and independently, and recognizing that true happiness and success are not dependent on anyone else but oneself. Living alone offers the opportunity for deep self-reflection and personal growth. It allows individuals to cultivate emotional resilience, strength, and self-awareness, leading to a greater understanding of one's values and desires, independent of societal expectations or the need for a romantic partner. Choosing to live alone without a romantic partner is an act of embracing individuality and rejecting external pressures to conform. It empowers individuals to forge their own path, develop a life based on their own values, and pursue personal goals without relying on someone else to define their happiness or sense of purpose. Living alone provides an unparalleled opportunity for self-discovery and emotional independence. In a world that is increasingly interconnected and often overwhelmed by the noise of external influences, being alone offers the space to turn inward and explore the complexities of one's own mind and heart. This process of self-exploration is not always comfortable, nor is it always easy. It requires facing parts of oneself that may have been neglected, avoided, or even suppressed in the rush of daily life. Yet, in choosing to live alone, an individual is offered the chance to confront these aspects of themselves, to understand them better, and to ultimately shape their emotional world in a way that is uniquely their own. One of the fundamental aspects of emotional independence is the ability to rely on oneself for emotional stability. In relationships, it is easy to become reliant on the other person for validation, comfort, or support. While healthy relationships do involve mutual care and respect, they can sometimes blur the lines of emotional independence. When a person is constantly turning to others to fill emotional gaps or provide reassurance, they may begin to lose touch with their own inner resources. Living alone eliminates this dependency. It forces a person to confront their own emotional needs and to find ways to meet them internally, rather than relying on someone else. This process of emotional self-sufficiency is not about rejecting the need for others. Rather, it is about recognizing that one can be whole and complete without always needing someone else to fulfill those emotional needs. It is about learning to self-soothe, to find peace within oneself, and to manage emotional turbulence without external intervention. Through this, one becomes more resilient, capable of navigating the ups and downs of life with a sense of internal strength that is not dependent on anyone else's presence or approval. In addition to emotional independence, living alone fosters an environment for self-discovery. Without the distractions of constant social interaction, the demands of a romantic relationship, or the expectations placed upon an individual by others, there is an opportunity to truly understand oneself. This may mean exploring one's passions, identifying personal values, or confronting deep-seated fears and insecurities. Without the pressure of conforming to someone else's needs or desires, a person is free to explore who they are, what they believe, and what they truly want from life. Self-discovery in solitude often requires vulnerability. It is a process of peeling back layers of identity that have been shaped by external forces, family, culture, society, and relationships. These layers may have been built over years, even decades, and often represent not who we truly are, but who we have been conditioned to be. Living alone allows an individual to start the process of removing these layers, to question which aspects of themselves are authentic, and which have been constructed based on expectations or survival mechanisms. This kind of self-inquiry is not always easy. It can bring up uncomfortable emotions, challenging thoughts, or aspects of oneself that have been hidden or denied. For example, someone might uncover patterns of behavior that they have relied on to cope with past traumas or insecurities, patterns that may no longer serve them in the present. But through self-reflection, these patterns can be recognized, understood, and ultimately changed. This process requires patience, compassion, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. The outcome, however, is a greater sense of clarity and self-awareness that can lead to more authentic choices and a deeper connection with one's true self. Emotional independence also means learning to navigate difficult emotions without the need for validation from others. It's common for people to seek validation when they feel insecure, sad, or uncertain. A person who lives alone is often faced with their own emotional world, and in the absence of external validation, they must learn to validate themselves. This involves acknowledging one's emotions, accepting them without judgment, and understanding that emotions are a natural part of the human experience. It also involves developing the emotional intelligence to respond to those emotions in healthy, constructive ways. For example, if a person feels loneliness or sadness, they might typically seek comfort from a friend, family member, or romantic partner. While reaching out to others is an important part of maintaining healthy relationships, emotional independence involves recognizing that these feelings can also be processed on one's own. The ability to sit with uncomfortable emotions without trying to avoid or numb them is a critical part of emotional maturity. It allows a person to build resilience and to learn how to cope with life's inevitable challenges without becoming overwhelmed or dependent on others for emotional support. Furthermore, emotional independence can lead to greater self-confidence. When a person is no longer relying on others to tell them who they are or what they should feel, they begin to trust themselves more. This trust in one's own judgment and emotions is an essential part of building self-esteem. As individuals become more emotionally independent, they are able to make decisions that align with their true values, rather than being swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. They become less afraid of standing alone, of disagreeing with others, or of expressing their unique thoughts and feelings. In this process of self-discovery, it is also important to consider the role that solitude plays in cultivating emotional awareness. In the company of others, it can be difficult to truly listen to oneself. The voices of others, the distractions of social interaction, and the busyness of daily life can all drown out the inner voice that guides us. Living alone provides the space to hear that voice more clearly. It allows for moments of quiet introspection, where one can sit with their thoughts and reflect on their experiences without the influence of external chatter. This solitude becomes a form of self-care, a way of honoring one's need for quiet and reflection. Solitude is not about isolation, but rather about creating a space where one can be fully present with themselves. It is about choosing to be alone with purpose, rather than being alone out of necessity or loneliness. In this space, an individual can explore their emotions without fear of judgment or interruption. It is a chance to cultivate mindfulness, to become more attuned to the present moment, and to understand the emotions that arise within it. Over time, this practice of being present with oneself fosters a deeper sense of self-awareness and emotional understanding. Living alone also allows for the development of a deeper connection with one's own values. In relationships, especially romantic ones, there is often a tendency to compromise or adjust one's values to meet the needs of the other person. This is a natural part of any relationship, as it involves balancing the desires and expectations of both individuals. However, when living alone, a person can more fully explore what they stand for, what they believe in, and what truly matters to them. There is no pressure to conform to anyone else's values or beliefs. Instead, there is the freedom to define one's own principles and live according to them. This alignment with personal values is a key aspect of emotional independence. When a person is clear about what they value, they are less likely to be swayed by external influences or peer pressure. They are able to make decisions based on their own moral compass, rather than feeling compelled to fit into someone else's mold. This strengthens their sense of self, as they are able to live authentically, true to their own beliefs and desires. Of course, living alone does not mean that one is immune to the challenges of life. There will still be moments of doubt, sadness, and uncertainty. However, emotional independence allows a person to face these challenges with greater resilience. They no longer feel as though their happiness or emotional well-being depends on someone else. Instead, they trust in their own ability to handle whatever comes their way. This self-reliance is not about being closed off or emotionally distant. Rather, it is about being capable of standing firm in one's own emotional world, even when the external world feels uncertain or chaotic. In fact, emotional independence enhances one's ability to engage in meaningful relationships. When a person is emotionally independent, they are able to bring their whole authentic self to relationships. They are not seeking to fill a void or find validation from the other person. Rather, they are looking to connect in a genuine way. This makes relationships more fulfilling, as they are built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, rather than neediness or dependency. Emotional independence allows a person to be open and vulnerable in relationships, while also maintaining a sense of self and emotional autonomy. The process of self-discovery and emotional independence is a lifelong journey. It requires ongoing introspection, a willingness to face one's own emotions, and the courage to grow and evolve. Living alone can serve as a powerful catalyst for this process, providing the space and freedom to explore one's inner world without distraction or interference. In doing so, it allows for the development of a deep and lasting sense of self-awareness, emotional resilience, and inner strength. It is through this journey of self-discovery that one can truly learn to live authentically, to trust in their own emotional world, and to embrace the fullness of who they are. In a world where societal expectations and pressures often dictate how individuals should live, the concept of authenticity has become both a rare and precious commodity. To live authentically means to be true to oneself, to align one's actions, thoughts, and values with one's deepest sense of identity, rather than molding oneself to fit the expectations or standards set by others. This pursuit of authenticity becomes even more profound when an individual chooses to live alone, outside the typical societal framework of romantic relationships, family structures, or social norms. The freedom from these societal pressures provides an individual with a unique opportunity to explore their true nature and embrace a life that is genuinely their own, unencumbered by external influences or judgment. When we consider the pressure placed on individuals to conform to the expectations of society, it becomes clear how difficult it is to maintain authenticity in a world that constantly urges people to fit in. From a young age, people are taught what it means to be successful, happy, and fulfilled. This success is often measured by external markers such as career achievements, financial stability, and romantic relationships. In many ways, society tells individuals that they are only truly happy or fulfilled if they are in a romantic relationship, if they are following a prescribed life path, and if they are constantly measuring up to an idealized version of what it means to be normal or successful. This can create immense pressure on individuals to fit into predefined roles. For men, particularly, there are often rigid expectations about what it means to be masculine. The traditional notion of masculinity frequently includes ideas of strength, stoicism, independence, and success, with the unspoken assumption that these qualities are best expressed through relationships, career achievements, and outward accomplishments. For a man who chooses to live alone, these societal pressures may feel particularly intense. Without a romantic partner or family to validate his place in society, he may feel as though he is being judged or misunderstood. In many cultures, the absence of a partner or significant other can be seen as a failure or a sign of social inadequacy. This judgment is compounded by the perception that men who are single are somehow incomplete, lacking, or missing something fundamental. However, the freedom that comes with rejecting these societal pressures can also be incredibly liberating. Living alone, particularly without the involvement of a romantic partner, allows a person to step outside the framework of external expectations and discover what truly matters to them. It creates space to focus on one's own desires, needs, and values, without being influenced by the opinions or demands of others. This freedom enables individuals to embrace their authentic selves and to pursue paths that align with their own sense of purpose, even if those paths do not align with societal norms. In this context, the choice to live authentically involves rejecting the notion that happiness and fulfillment are contingent upon being in a relationship or conforming to societal expectations. It is a conscious decision to let go of the belief that one's worth is tied to the validation of others, and instead to trust that one's unique path is valid and meaningful, regardless of external judgment. This is not to say that relationships are unimportant, or that romantic connections do not contribute to a fulfilling life. Rather, it emphasizes the importance of recognizing that fulfillment does not have to come from external sources, and that an individual can find meaning and purpose through personal growth and self-exploration. To live authentically is also to embrace the complexity and nuances of one's own identity. Society often encourages people to fit into neat, easily understandable categories that are often based on gender, profession, or relationship status. These categories are not always accurate or reflective of the complexity of human experience. A man who lives alone without the pressure to fit into societal molds has the opportunity to embrace all aspects of his identity, even those that may not conform to conventional standards of masculinity or success. He can choose to explore his own interests, to express emotions openly, and to redefine what it means to be a man, not based on societal expectations, but based on his own understanding of himself. The freedom to embrace this complexity allows individuals to lead lives that are richer and more fulfilling. It creates space for vulnerability, creativity, and exploration. A person who is no longer constrained by the need to perform or conform can experiment with new ways of being, thinking, and living. They can pursue their passions, delve into new areas of interest, and cultivate relationships with others based on mutual respect and shared values, rather than out of necessity or societal obligation. In the absence of societal pressures, a person can also reimagine their relationship to time. In many ways, the external demands of career, social life, and relationships can cause people to feel as though they are constantly rushing, constantly striving to meet external expectations or deadlines. Living alone, free from these external pressures, allows a person to slow down, to engage with life at a more deliberate pace, and to savor the present moment. This slower pace can lead to greater mindfulness and an appreciation for the small, often overlooked aspects of life. By living authentically, individuals can free themselves from the relentless pursuit of societal ideals and instead focus on what truly brings them joy, peace, and fulfillment. An essential aspect of living authentically is the ability to embrace one's own imperfections. Society often promotes the idea of perfection, whether in appearance, behavior, or achievement, as a standard to which individuals should aspire. This can create a constant sense of inadequacy, as people feel pressured to meet these unrealistic standards. Living alone, without the constant presence of others who may contribute to these ideals, allows a person to accept themselves fully, imperfections and all. The pressure to perform or impress is lifted, and in its place, there is an opportunity to embrace one's flaws, quirks, and limitations with compassion and acceptance. Living authentically also means being able to prioritize one's mental and emotional well-being. In relationships, particularly those that are not healthy or fulfilling, it is easy to lose sight of one's own needs in the attempt to meet the needs of others. In contrast, living alone allows an individual to focus on self-care, mental health, and emotional growth. The freedom from the demands of others offers the space to cultivate habits and practices that nurture the body, mind, and spirit. Whether through meditation, physical exercise, creative expression, or simply taking time for reflection, living authentically means making choices that support one's well-being and personal growth. This sense of freedom extends to how an individual approaches their relationships with others. Without the pressure to fit into conventional relationship roles, a person can engage in relationships that are meaningful, fulfilling, and authentic. They are not seeking out relationships to fulfill societal expectations or to avoid loneliness. Instead, they seek connections based on genuine compatibility, shared values, and mutual respect. These relationships can be deep and lasting because they are not built on the need for validation or external approval, but on a true understanding and appreciation of each other as unique individuals. Furthermore, embracing authenticity means recognizing that one's path may not always be linear or predictable. Society often encourages people to follow a clear and structured life trajectory: graduate from school, get a job, find a partner, get married, and have children. This prescribed path can create a sense of rigidity, where individuals feel as though they must follow a specific sequence of events to achieve success or happiness. When a person chooses to live authentically, they may realize that their path does not follow this conventional script. They may take detours, make unconventional choices, or pursue goals that others might not understand. Yet this nonlinear journey becomes a testament to their individuality and their commitment to living in accordance with their true self. Living alone, free from societal pressures, also means having the ability to redefine success. In a society that often equates success with material wealth, career advancement, or social status, living authentically requires a reevaluation of what success truly means. Success may no longer be defined by external markers, but by a sense of personal fulfillment, contentment, and alignment with one's values. This shift in perspective allows a person to define their own measures of success based on what truly matters to them, rather than on the achievements or accolades that society deems important. One of the most profound aspects of living authentically is the freedom to embrace one's own timeline. Society often sets expectations for when certain milestones should be achieved: getting a degree by a certain age, establishing a career by another, getting married, having children, and so on. However, living authentically allows a person to live at their own pace, unbound by the arbitrary timelines set by others. This freedom from comparison and societal expectation can lead to a greater sense of peace, as individuals are no longer rushing through life to meet external standards. They can take their time to explore, experiment, and evolve in ways that are meaningful to them. Ultimately, living authentically and free from societal pressure allows individuals to cultivate a life that is uniquely their own. It provides the opportunity to define success, happiness, and fulfillment on their own terms, and to embrace the complexities of their own identity. In a world that constantly seeks to impose external standards and expectations, living authentically is an act of courage, of self-love, and of deep respect for one's own individuality. It is about choosing to be true to oneself, to live with integrity, and to walk a path that is guided by one's own values and desires.